Hey everyone, welcome to Vegas Showbiz. I am Michael Pellegrini, and it is my great pleasure to be joined today by Farrell Dillon, Las Vegas comedian and magician extraordinaire. We're hanging out here at the Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club. We're upstairs in the comedy room on stage. We've got a nice big room behind us. If you've never been here before, this is one of my favorite venues in all of Las Vegas. In addition to the upstairs area, you can go downstairs. They've got a full bar, they've got a restaurant. Definitely the nicest comedy club on the Strip, so do check it out. And thank you to them for allowing us to do this interview today. I also want to give some love to Farrell's show. I've seen it not once but twice now. The first time it was my wife and I. We had so much fun that we came back again with our kids, another family and their kids. Everybody had a blast, honestly. Super fun show, good magic, good comedy, family friendly. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, do check out his show. I've got a lot of questions. He's got a show later, so I want to be respectful of his time. One small favor to ask of you before we get started. If you're enjoying the content, please help us out by subscribing to the Vegas Showbiz YouTube channel. We're trying to grow the channel, and your support via subscription does go a long way. So with that said, first and foremost, you're my first interview guest on the channel. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for seeing the show more than once. And bringing people. The support is huge because that's really how we grow our shows. So
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. You actually, on the first one, you called me up on stage. I got to be part of it, and then the second one, you called our friend's son up on stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember. I think you posted a video a long time ago, and you reviewed our show, so I appreciate that too.
Yes, I'll link to that.
Yeah, thank you for reviewing our show and then coming back.
Yeah.
Again, that's the best way to. And you know what? We actually oddly get a lot of people who come back to our show more than once, and part of me goes, "Why?" But like, people seem to really like it. So
it's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that people just bring other people, and that's the best compliment anybody could give, honestly.
Awesome. Good stuff. So I'm curious to get into the Vegas stuff, but to start off, I want to go way back, right? I want to hear about where you're from, how you got started. Your show is kind of equal parts magic and comedy, so I'm interested. Was it magic first? Was it comedy? And just how'd you get started?
It was magic first.
Okay.
So I got there's this. During Christmas time, they have these like stockings that have like crafts in them a lot of times. You see them also like with dog treats. They have these like stockings that are like prepackaged with like dog treats in them.
Yeah.
There was one that had magic tricks in it, and my aunt and uncle sent that to me as a Christmas gift.
Okay.
And it had like a magic video in it, and like I could put it in a VHS player, and like this guy with big hair, and like I think an Israeli accent, he would like teach magic.
Nice.
And I learned that stuff, and then I was like, oh man, magic's cool. And then I found a magic shop in Monterey, California called Zucchini's Tricks and Things. And it was in a, so there's a place called Cannery Row. There's a book about it by a guy named John Steinbeck. Anyways, there's this carousel in there. And it's like one of the oldest, or it was one of the oldest carousels in America. And underneath the place that had the carousel in it was like you'd have to go in the basement, and there was this like little magic shop that sold costumes and then magic, and that was the magic shop that I would go to and get more magic tricks.
How old were you at this time?
About 12.
Okay. And was it Monterey? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from a town called Salinas, which is like about 15 or 16 miles from Monterey.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you stuck with it through your teenage years, and when did you get serious with it? When did it really become your passion?
So I had a mentor of sorts. He was a pilot for United for 35 years. He would fly all around the world. He flew jumbo jets into Japan, and I mean that was his main job. But he was passionate about magic, and when he retired from flying, he did magic full time.
Okay.
And his name was Richard Meyer, and he. But while he was flying, I was still a teenager, and I met him. He took his daughter to the magic camp that I went to. I went to a magic camp called West Coast Wizards.
Okay.
There were two magic camps at the time. There was the Tannins Magic Camp, which is on the East Coast, which still exists, and then there was the West Coast Wizards Magic Camp, which was for all the kids, like on the West Coast. And that's the magic camp I went to, and that's where I met him. He was dropping off his daughter there. And I found out there was a magician from my area, and I was like, couldn't believe it. Like, because I was the only magician I knew growing up until him. And then, I got his phone number, and I would call him on the phone. And, you know, he's a 55-year-old man and, like, hanging out with a kid. But
took you in, kind of?
Yeah, he took me under his wing and taught me magic, and I'm grateful for him.
Wow, that's very cool.
And, like, I still feel like that's the best way to learn magic is from teacher to student.
Handing it down.
Yeah, I mean, there's books and DVDs and you can go on YouTube and learn all kinds of tricks.
Sure.
But the best way to really learn is from a teacher, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Was there a point where it kind of clicked for you and like, this is what I want to do with my life, or did it just kind of evolve into that?
Yeah. So my friends didn't even know I did magic. Most of them didn't even know I did magic all throughout school. Like my really close friends did, because I would do magic for them. But general at my school, kids didn't know that I did magic. And then because I was afraid to do magic for people, I had a massive fear of worrying about fooling people and oh, what if they see it and I'll be embarrassed. And
yeah.
So I was very afraid of performing for a very long time. And then I went to junior college after high school, and I also went to a magic school called the Chavez Studio of Magic.
Oh, cool.
Which is it used to be a thing where people would go on the GI Bill. A guy named Ben and Marion Chavez, they would teach this to guys after World War II on the GI Bill.
Wow.
They would go and learn. They all learned the same act, and then some of them took that act and made it different in their own. And then I was one of the people who basically took that and made that act my own thing. But all the sleight of hand manipulation stuff that I do in my show is all from that course.
Wow.
But I just dress it up in a way that doesn't look the same.
Okay. Made your own.
Yeah. And so I went to that, and then I went back home to the Monterey Bay Area, where there are no places to perform there.
I was wondering. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the whole town is very strange, right? Monterey closes at 2 in the afternoon.
Right.
The Taco Bell closes at 2 in the afternoon. There is no nightlife whatsoever. It is basically just a place to retire.
Okay.
So there's no chance to perform. So I ended up moving from there to Southern California.
Okay.
And I went to junior college for a little bit, but I wasn't interested in anything outside of performing. So I just had to start performing, and I had to get over my fear of trying to fool people and being afraid of that. And eventually I started doing a lot of shows and gaining confidence, and then
little bit by bit,
and then I used to do a very serious act, and then one of my friends who lives here in Vegas was like, dude, you're the funniest person I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. It's why don't you just do that? And I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't realize I could be funny and do magic at the same time. And so I kind of started leaning more into that, and that's where I kind of found my voice and my lane to go into. And yeah, I mean, people think that my show is 50% magic and 50% comedy or whatever, but really all the comedy lends itself to the magic that I'm doing, right? So I think of it more as writing sitcoms.
Okay.
Where I create the situation that's funny, and that's where I get my comedy from, right?
Okay.
So I come up with jokes that fit the situation that we're in, right? I'm not trying to just force jokes out of where they don't fit.
Sure.
Right? That all comes from, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan.
Me too.
All of the jokes come from the situation that we've created on stage.
Right.
Which is usually a goofy situation that I've created in my mind.
Yeah.
And then wrote everything to fit the situation that I created.
Okay. So the comedic chops kind of came more naturally to you, and they adapted into the magic show.
Yeah. The comedy thing was much easier for me than the magic to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long were you performing before you ultimately landed here in Vegas?
Let's see. I started really performing full time when I was 21.
Okay.
And so I landed here in Vegas previously at a place at Bally's when the horseshoe was Bally's.
Yeah, the Magic Attic, right?
No, so before that even.
Oh, even before that.
I was in a show called Masters of Illusion, which is a TV show, but they had a live show, and I was the comedy magic, not host, but for lack of a better term, the comedy magician in their touring show.
Okay.
That they did all throughout the country since 2011. I did that, so I did that for almost 10 years as their comedy magician, and then in 2018, they decided to open a show at Bally's.
Okay.
And that's where I met a guy named Damian Costa.
Okay.
He was the first person I met when I came in the door. He was the VP of entertainment for Caesars at the time, and he was just sitting in one of the booths. And I came in, and I was very stressed out because it's my first time performing in Vegas. And I just sat next to him, and we started talking. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that he was a big deal.
Yeah.
I just thought he was sitting in the theater, and like, we were talking and hanging out. And then eventually, like, a couple weeks later, the show opens. We have a bunch of rehearsals. The show opens, and my manager calls me the next day, and he's like, I'd love to try to figure out a way to get you your own show. And I was like, okay, that'd be cool.
It's got to be a dream come true,
yeah,
right?
but like, I'm also in their show. Like, my manager was like part of the show, and then fast forward, like, that show ends up eventually ending, and I go home. We were living in Idaho at the time. We had moved. My wife and I had gotten married, had a baby, and so we moved to Idaho from Southern California, and we went back to Idaho.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, Vegas was really cool for the time we were there, and I'm very happy and grateful to have been in that great city, and it was like crossed off my bucket list.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the pandemic, and then I went and started doing, like, I had already done cruise ships and things like that.
Okay.
Like, that was like my main gig. I would do colleges or just gigs here and there.
Yep.
And then at the end of the pandemic, around the end of 2021, I got a call from Damian again.
Okay.
And he had said, hey, so we're starting a production company, and we would like you to be the first show that we produce at the Magic Attic. And I was like, yes. So, like, immediately I was like, yes, let's do that.
Right.
So my show opened at Bally's.
That's where I saw you the first time.
Yep. And Damian and I had been we were just buds, so like I would just text him. Like, he was working on remodeling an RV, and I love RVing, so like we were talking about that and just other things like throughout the years. And then so then they decided to produce my show. His company's called Pompeii Entertainment.
Okay.
They produce all the shows in this place too, and they have a venue at the Rio called Duomo.
Oh, okay.
And then they also are opening up another venue, I think, somewhere. But anyway, so I opened at Bally's, and we were there for about a year.
Okay.
And then they were going to reopen Jimmy Kimmel's. Now, he was part of the Caesars team that opened Jimmy Kimmel's to begin with.
Got it.
And then they were going to reopen it. And he brought me over here.
Okay.
And I saw the space.
That's great.
And it's great. So I was like, look, man, when can I come over here?
No shade on the Magic Attic, but this is a step up.
Dude, I love the Magic Attic.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's a fun venue. The backstage is really cool. They've got a lot. Look, they did a lot of work making that room a reality, because originally that place was a buffet, and then because they had a show in there called Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Okay.
Up in that room.
Okay.
Do you remember? Do you know about that show?
I've heard of it, but I didn't get to see it.
So essentially, it's a Italian wedding.
Nice.
And you go in, and they have meals, and like you sit with the families of the people getting married.
Oh my god.
And it was a show, like a dinner show, but it was really cool.
Okay.
And it was very funny. Like, everything you could expect from a stereotypical wedding.
Yeah.
They had all of it.
Okay.
Right. And it was packed into this show. It was very funny. And then after that, they had a few other shows in there. I think the Bronx Wanderers were in there.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Frederick Da Silva, which if you haven't seen it, is amazing. That show is really great.
Okay, it's on my list.
Frederick has really made that room his room. When you go in there, everything is him.
Nice.
And so, so I'm very grateful to have been there. But he brought me here, and I was like, man, this is really nice. And they were looking for something to put in the afternoon here, and my goal had always been to have an afternoon type comedy family magic show. Right. Matt King was when I first started getting into comedy magic, Matt King was the gold standard of comedy magic shows.
Yeah, I saw his show a long time ago.
It's very good.
Yes.
And he was the man, and I was like, man, I loved Lance and all the classic Vegas magic shows.
Sure.
Rick Thomas, like the grand shows, but like when I saw Mac, I was like,
That's
what I will. That's the thing that I would love to do because it's just so simple and it's just as entertaining as those giant shows, but just not. It's him, right? Like, and I was like, it's just like he's the entertainer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need any of the other stuff. He is the man. So I just saw that and I was like, man, that is the best. So I started, when I saw him, I was like, okay, so that's like, I could see the formula behind it and like how it all worked. And I was like, okay, so like I don't want to be Mac, but I understood how to structure a show in a way that I could maximize my talents and not obviously emulate what Mac does, but make sure that like the show is tight, efficient, that sort of thing.
Clearly a lot of practice went into this, and I'm curious, at this stage in your career, how much is practice still a thing for you? Are you still regularly working stuff out? Do you have to keep that, that skill sharp all the time, or is it like in you now?
Yeah, so we do shows like almost every day.
Yeah.
So I practice almost every day for an hour and change, right? So yeah, I mean, like I still will practice like every day before the show. I spend about 10 or 15 minutes practicing stuff.
Kind of getting warmed up.
Yeah, getting warmed up, and like I have to, my show is dexterously pretty what's the word, demanding, I guess. Like it's technically quite difficult.
Yeah. I guess
so I have to stretch out my fingers and my hands and like make sure that they're working as one unit. If I take 2 weeks off, I'm going to come back and go, if I don't pick up stuff, I'm going to not lose it, but it'll take me a few shows to get back into that
groove.
Yeah.
Right?
So every day I have to pick up stuff and at least for 15 minutes, like play with it and just make sure that my hands are moving in a as one unit, basically.
Makes sense. And what about new material? Are you frequently adding new stuff to your show? It feels like it had changed a little bit from the first time to the second time I saw it.
So the reason why it felt like it changed is number one, new venue.
Yeah. Okay.
Number two, I probably was doing one or two things maybe different, but the show has changed very little since I started doing it to now. But it probably felt different because every show is different in some way. Whether it's different people on stage, like different people on stage can make a huge difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm not the best at picking audience members. Like there are some people who are really good at it, but like, yeah, and you were probably really great. I mean, like I saw the videos and I remembered you actually when I saw the video that you posted online. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was fun.
But sometimes I pick people and I think they're going to be great, and it's like,
yeah.
And so what happens is I get to rely on my material as written, right? And then if they're really great, I get to play too.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets really fun, not just for me, but for the audience too, because they're experiencing something that people don't get to experience every time.
Sure.
And so when they come back, it feels different.
Right.
Or like maybe the person I bring up on stage is different in a different, like they're funny or great in a different way. And then at that point, it feels different because they go, oh, he didn't say that or do that last time.
Right.
Because that thing just didn't come up.
Yeah.
But after, we've done over 450 shows here.
Wow.
And so, not just in this venue, but like combined.
Yeah.
So with 450 shows, a lot of things happen.
Right.
And so I mentally remember, I can remember almost everything that has happened at some point.
Okay.
Because when it happens again, I know where to go.
Sure. Right. Been there.
And so, people go, oh, but that never happened before. And I go, yep. Sometimes like, I had a guy like, go to high five me and then he like put his hand on my face because I didn't have any hands to high five him with. Put his hand on my face and like, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
And I've done the routine for that thousands of times.
Yeah.
Right. But that was such a great moment that eventually it will happen again. And then I've already mentally prepared for what to say next time that thing happens.
Gotcha.
Even if it doesn't happen for 2,000 shows, I will remember the time that happened, and I will remember because of the cue of like it touching, like him touching my face. I will remember later the things that I had thought up afterwards.
Sure, that makes sense. Another question for you. Your wife is a big part of the show. She is awesome.
Yes.
Did the two of you meet because you were both into magic, or was she not into it at first and you already met? I'm curious how she became a part of the show, or did you build it together?
Oh man. So this show has existed in some form since I was 22 years old.
Okay.
Like in different ways. Like almost none of the tricks are the same, but like the structure of the show has existed for a very long time, because when I saw Mad King for the first time, I was able to reconstruct the construction of how I want to get to the, like I basically construct the whole thing in my head, and then the tricks don't really, I can change out the tricks probably, but I know how to structure a show now. So, but I was doing performances at a close-up magic theater in Boise, Idaho, called Mystique. And they have a bunch of locations all over the country now. There's a couple in Utah, like 3 or 4 in California, but there was only the one in Idaho at the time. And I was basically, it's like 18 people get to see the show. It's a really long table. They serve them a 3-course meal, and then at the end of the meal, a magician appears in the room and does a 45-minute close-up magic show.
Oh, cool.
And she worked there, but before she worked there, she came as a guest, like a ticketed customer. Her mom was having her birthday or something, and at the end of the show, I did a trick on her that I don't do in my shows now, but it had like 5 people drawing things, and then the last person, I read their mind and like duplicate the drawing that they drew.
Oh wow.
And she was the one who like I duplicated the drawing for. Amanda was. And at the end of the show, she said to her parents, "I'm gonna marry that guy."
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then
oh my God.
I didn't see her again for about I mean, she added me on MySpace, I think.
Nice.
That was in MySpace days.
Oh, I remember those days.
And then when I came back, so I left to LA, and then I came back, and she was working there.
Okay.
She had gotten a job there as like one of the people who introduced the shows, and they like served the dinners. But like she like, so we like started hanging out, and then I moved back to LA after the end of the contract, and then she moved out there to do like as a live-in nanny for a family.
Oh wow.
And then we started dating, and at the time I've worked I've almost never worked in Los Angeles, just because all of my work was traveling places.
Okay.
So there was no real reason to live there anymore. So and she missed her family, and was like, look, let's just move to Idaho because I'm going to travel anyways.
Sure.
So you might as well be around people that you love and your family.
Right.
So we just moved there, and then we ended up getting married.
That's awesome. It's a great story.
Yeah, and now she helps me out on stage every day.
She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
Kills
she's
it.
the best. Yeah, I know. And she just gets better and better at it too.
Yeah.
And you know, that was she would travel with me on tour buses and stuff, and we would even bring our kids on tour buses.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow.
So whenever we did the touring stuff, like we would all travel together as like kind of Farrell's people. These are Farrell's people, so it's fine. I mean, I had been touring with the company that I toured with for 10 years or whatever, so they were like, they never had a problem with us just hanging out on the tour bus together. And,
right.
And then she helped me out in the show at Bally's too.
Yeah.
But like before, like not just Magic Attic, but also the Masters of Illusion show at Bally's.
Okay.
And then we moved back home. We had another baby, and then we moved here in 2021. I mean, you know, Damien's the best. Him and the company Dayton, our show manager, they're just the greatest. They're very supportive of our show, and I think we've built something cool.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very proud of what we've done and the amount of work that it took to get here. And I mean, it always was the goal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you earned it.
Yeah.
One more question on the family tip here. Your dog, I assume it's your dog.
Yes.
It's part of the show. It's a star. Like, how
She
did
is
that?
a star, yeah.
How did that happen? Like, I just want to hear a little bit more about the dog because it's such a funny part of the show.
Well, I mean, look, there's nothing much to tell you. So we had our dog first. That was our first kid.
Okay.
I was doing ships at the time.
Okay.
And I got an offer to go on ships for like 8 months or something. Like,
wow.
And I was like, look, I can't do this unless A, B, and C. So, number one, Amanda's my assistant, so she's got to come with me. We'll stay in the same cabin. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we were already like engaged or about to be married, so it like didn't make sense to just not be together all the time, especially if I was going to leave for that amount of time.
Yeah,
it's
no kidding.
Silly. So I wouldn't have done it then. And then also, look, we put our dog in the show, is what we said, right? But like we didn't put the dog in the show. We didn't know what she was going to do. But I was like, I got this thing to make the dog, like, so I got this thing to make the dog appear. And then I was like, okay, like we got to put like her in one more bit. So we figured out I was already doing like the surfboard thing at the time. So we were like, what if we just put her in like a shark costume and had her like come out on stage during that bit? And I was like, that's perfect.
Okay.
So we ended up doing that, and like literally it was just so that we could get her on the ships with us. So that we didn't have to leave her at home and have her either stay, like we couldn't have a dog stay somewhere for 8 months without her family. So we just wanted to travel with her more, so we just put her in the show and took her with us.
And now it's like part of the every night part of the show.
Yeah.
Love it.
She's back there hanging out. She's 12 now, so she's if you do the math, that's like 84.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So she's very old. We have another pug too, who's younger, but like, and she's the backup pug. But like we love her, but she every day, you know, if we for a little while we were using the other dog to do the shows. And Isley, our older dog, got mad. She was like, what is it? Like, she looked at us like, what is this? What, I want to go to work. Right. I want to go to work. I do the thing better than her.
Right.
And so now we just bring Isley because she gets mad otherwise. So we just bring her. She can't hear anymore, but I can hear her going, if we put the other dog in the bag, she's like, like she just grunts at us and then she starts barking like, what about me? So we're just like, okay, fine, you can do it until you decide you don't want to anymore.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, one more for you before we have to go. And this one is specifically geared to our younger viewers out there. Anybody that might want to follow in your footsteps that's inspired by magic and performing. Any advice that you can give to somebody that's coming up following that path? What would you tell them?
Work on your skills. Practice your magic tricks. Like, I mean, I know that's like a silly thing to say, but like, practice whatever craft it is. If you paint, if you play music, whatever it is. Like, I know that it seems silly, but a lot of people get interested in something and then like, oh, there's practice and work involved, and like, if you can make the practice and the work fun, then it's not really practice, right? So, the other thing is, read your books, because all of the best magic tricks are buried hidden in books.
Really?
Yeah. There's good magic tricks you can learn on YouTube or whatever, but like the best magic tricks are buried in books that you
like old books.
A lot of them are old books. Yeah.
Wow.
Like really old books, because people forget their history.
Okay.
And so what happens is you can go back to these old books, open them up and go, oh, I've never seen that before. And chances are, if you've never seen it, like I've been interested in magic since I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I open a book sometimes, I'm like, never seen that. Chances are, if I've never seen that, most of the magicians haven't seen that either.
Right.
One of the things also that people think that they've seen, like there's a lot of stuff that people think they've seen that they haven't seen. I've never seen in a live performance a magician pull a rabbit out of a top hat. Never once.
Okay.
But people think that they've seen it.
Right.
Because that's not really a classic magic trick. There was a magician in England who did it a long time ago, and it was very funny, and it was something that people remembered.
Yeah.
And so it became like the classic image of magician,
Yeah.
but like nobody's ever
It's like
actually
zeitgeist.
like. There's one guy I think, and I saw a video of him doing it, and I said to him, I was like, dude, I've never seen that in real life, and he goes, I hadn't either. That's why I started doing it.
Right.
And I was like, but what's interesting is that people go, oh, you just pulled a rabbit out of a top hat, like magicians do, but like magicians don't do that.
Right.
Like
right.
almost none of them.
That's funny.
And so like, chances are that if you like open up old magic books from, you know, even just like the 50s or 60s, there's a lot of stuff in there that nobody's ever seen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Build off of that.
Yeah, and so just read your books, and I mean, magic's hard too. It's a whole new language to learn. It's like anything. Like if you learn to read music,
Yep.
reading magic books is the same kind of thing.
Okay.
You have to know the buzzwords. So just hang out with magicians and learn from them, and read your books. I mean, it's just kind of basic stuff. If you're interested in a thing, it shouldn't feel difficult to do that.
Yeah, it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. You've really made this a special first interview. It's been a pleasure to hear your story. Love your show. Again, if anybody gets a chance to come and check them out in Vegas, I highly recommend it. We really loved it. We'll be back. And again, really appreciate your time today. It means a lot.
Thank you. I'm sorry about this too. I fidget with everything. So
No.
like my rings or whatever, like anything I have on, I'm like flipping them around, and it's just my thing. So.
No, I talk with my hands, you know,
Yeah.
it's my version of it. It's
Okay.
all good, man. No, I'm just really happy to be here today. And also thank you again to Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club for allowing us to do this, really special. Check that out if you get a chance. And if you're enjoying the content, please hit that subscribe button. We look forward to seeing you. He made it disappear. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Man,
Yeah.
you're the best. I really appreciate it.